Really?
Even in rehearsal.
Really?
Yeah, because you know great you're going to get something.
Okay, so go ahead, take it from Fred.
Okay,
Okay, take it from the top then.
yeah.
Okay,
Say it. Yeah.
okay. I'm talking to Aajonus Vonderplanitz today, and I'm going to ask him for his comments concerning Mike Adams' statements on the Alex Jones show, which appeared on YouTube. Now, Aajonus, the first thing that they talked about on the Alex Jones show was the fact that you're on your PhD credentials. They basically were saying that your PhD credentials are false. Can you comment on that?
Love to. I've been waiting this a long time. However, I really don't like to comment on hysterical news blurbs like that have no basis in reality. And Mike Adams, I like him. I like most of his work. But this was shocking to me, that personal attack. And we'll get into more as you ask me more, I'm sure when you ask me more, we'll get into maybe why he did that. But the credentials, first of all, the two that they showed there as a comparison, they said the crests were the same and everything. One was a large silver crest and mine was in gold and it was smaller. Mine had jagged edges, this is rounded. The print was, the type was similar, like he said, but the one said academic achievement. Mine didn't say academic achievement. And also take a look at this. I've got two $100 bills. Which one's counterfeit?
They both look real to me.
Okay. That's a good counterfeit. But the ones that they showed was not a good counterfeit. Didn't match mine at all. Mine looked very, very professional. Also on my PhD, as you see right here, it says, having demonstrated ability by original research, magna cum laude, with great distinction in nutrition. It doesn't say about anything about academic achievement. It says original work. I invented a primal diet, a diet that reverses 95% of all diseases. Most of the time when it's advanced, it's with my help that I'm giving personal recommendations. However, from my books, I've got 2 books and 2 DVDs. And here's one. I don't seem to have my big copy, of my big book, but here's one book, Recipe for Living Without Disease. Here's a DVD on how to make those recipes quickly. And then here's a workshop that I did, 5.5-hour DVD set of a workshop that I did at UCLA to teach people how to do this diet. So that is what I received that credential for. My work, my original work, not some academic achievement. I didn't sit in a classroom, no. I went into a laboratory, I worked with people. I was in the trenches, I just didn't get information. So my credential doesn't matter that I have that credential. I just liked it. They called me and said, read your books, loved them. We'd like to have you as an alumni to raise the standard of our university in London, in the city of London. So I said, sure, I like that. You help me, I help you. But does that credential really help me? I published, my book was published, I didn't publish it. I was going to, but then a publisher published it. In 1997, my book was published. First book was published on this subject. I'd gone all over the world lecturing, everywhere, helping people, doing quite well without a PhD until 2005. And when 2005 came around and they gave me that PhD, honorary PhD, it didn't change anything. But it certainly is not. It's just an ornament. And Alex Jones says Mike Adams says in the show, oh, this guy, goes and seeks employment to get a job with this false PhD. And he's got all this nonsense that doesn't relate to me at all. I don't go looking for work. How can I go looking for work as a nutritionist? I am self-nutritionist. I created this diet. Nobody can teach me. Nobody can hire me. I can hire other people to help me. So the whole accusations have no base in reality. There is no research that he did. He didn't go to Richmond's University in London to see if that university exists. He didn't go. What he did was he called Richmond University, which is not in London. It's out about 40 miles away. They're not the same university. So, as far as I know, that university is no longer existent. They didn't get enough of people like me, I guess, to hold them up to whatever stature they wanted. But it doesn't mean at all that my information is false, that my life, my work is false. Like he wants to, like he's insinuating. And it's a terrible insinuation. It's a character bashing that has no heart and no conscience and no truth, which is a real shame.
Wow. Well, thank you. Now, what do you have to say about the raid on Rawson and?
Well, the raid on Rawson. Well, first of all, he says that James Stewart created Rawson. James Stewart didn't create Rawson by himself. He and I started it. At that particular time in 2000, the state of California was trying to outlaw raw milk, which they had done periodically for years. I've been in the raw milk movement and raw food movement since 1970, since I was dying of cancers of blood, bone, stomach, and lymph. Plus I had diabetes and other diseases. So I was given a death sentence. And someone turned me on to raw milk and raw carrot juice. And it changed my life. And that's what got me into nutrition. So I've been fighting raw milk for 40 years. Before that particular time of 1999, 2000, 2001, when the state was coming hard to stop raw milk. We can talk about raw milk another time, but we had no milk, so we were going to other places, other farms out of the Los Angeles County to get raw milk and bringing them in. So we had a garage. It was a garage that James rented. And I sent my patients, my clients, to him to get the milk from him because we couldn't get it in stores. We couldn't get it anywhere. So together we built up this club. And then in about 2003, he decided to call it Rawson. Or we decided, he threw out the name, what do you think? And I said, great name. So it was, most of the things that happened at Rawson we agreed upon. And always as Rawson grew into a larger food club, everything was approved by me. All of the food there had to pass my scrutiny. And when it didn't fall into my scrutiny, and James Stewart lied about the quality of meats and chicken and eggs that he was getting from that farm, Healthy Family Farms in Sharon Palmer. We had a big disagreement and he wouldn't stop. So I went to the Ventura County District Attorney's Office to file a complaint. And so I told them about the food fraud that Sharon was throwing on us, lying to us, lying to everybody about the quality of the food. And that was it. Mike Adams says that I was the chief informant. Informant, I didn't even know these guys before that day I went there to file that complaint. And they wouldn't even take my complaint. So Mike Adams has blown this entire issue way out of context and way out of truth. And we can get into other parts of that. But that's what happened with Rawson. It was a mutual club. It went bad with Sharon Palmer and Healthy Family Farms involved, with James, and bad food.
Okay. Now, what about his accusation that the lab tests, which found that the chicken was laced with, what was it, arsenic? He said basically that those lab tests were not valid.
Well, they're very valid. I mean, and Miss Hansen, he says is not a doctor. No, she's not an MD, but she's a licensed therapist and very credible person. And she started having a lot of problems about the time, or when we had this food, these eggs and chickens that weren't right. They started making people ill. I noticed it too. Kept going to James and Sharon saying, what's going on? This doesn't seem right. We're having trouble with it. People are complaining about how they're feeling, and it only can relate to that because that's the only food we've changed in all of Rawson. Denial, 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 denial. That, and then we had there was a time that I went up to Sacramento to fight for raw milk again, and I met a woman up there who had worked at Rawson for about 1.5 years, and also had worked for Sharon at Healthy Family Farms. And she told me that she had worked at Healthy Family Farms for, several weeks, and was fired because she went to James and said, James, Sharon is feeding soy and GMO corn to the chickens for chicken meat and chicken eggs. And she was feeding it to the other animals too. And James and I agreed that there should be no soy and no GMO corn in the feed. And here for 2 years, they were claiming that it was clean. And this was in May 2009. Excuse me, May 2009. No, this was May 2010. So for the next 6 months, investigated as much as I could. Finally, we got an investigative firm to look into it, and we found extensive evidence that she was buying commercial feed. Not only buying commercial feed, she was buying commercial eggs and commercial meats, and then selling them to James Stewart to pawn off as grown on her farm as completely organic, and none of the feed was even organic. The labels were right there. And this woman that I was telling you about that told me that worked at both Rawson and Healthy Family Farms, she read the label, not organic, and full of, toxic products. So that is the true story. Mike Adams, why he's gone renegade and testified so much bad information. It just makes him look like a bad investigator, like he's done very shallow work. And what he accuses other news commentators and publishers about, he's always bragging about him being the best and most accurate and honest. Mm-hmm. Not honest at all. And, I thought he was great before this. So I question everything he says now. I won't take anything he says as truth unless I investigate it myself. And I'm not going to do it. If I'm going to investigate something, I'm not going to do it shallowly like he did. Mm-hmm. So why he took James Stewart's side and Sharon Palmer's, I don't know. But if you want to ask me about those two, I can comment about those two.
Well, you said something about Sharon's previous criminal history. I don't know if you want to get into that.
Oh, well, Mike didn't even say about her past criminal history. She was found guilty and sentenced to prison for elderly fraud. That means she defrauded, she and her husband. She blames it all on her husband, but from the information I got from some reporters and one of the victims, that she did all the setting up and her husband came in for the clothes. But she claims that she wasn't involved, she was a dupe, and her husband took her down that road. This went on for 7 or 8 years. You can't be duped that long. Maybe a week or two if you were in that kind of situation. But there was something like $16 million involved. I don't remember the exact figures, but it was pretty high. So what she and her husband would do is they would tell these elderly people, we'll get you a loan and you'll get so much every month. So and then of course the house, you'll get money every month and you don't have to worry about your bills. And then the house will go into some kind of escrow for the bank or some other thing, some Ponzi schemes, what it was. And they would give that elderly person or those elderly people money for about 5, 7 months, maybe 12 months, and all of a sudden stop paying the mortgage. And then those elderly people would be evicted. Elderly people, 80-year-old people, 60-year-old people, 70-year-old women, and out in the street, homeless. That's the kind of individual that Mike Adams is backing. So, and James with his food fraud along with her, those aren't good people to back. And yes, I filed suit against them, and it's supposed to go to trial in a few weeks. Trying to get it delayed until June because I have a tour to finish. The trial is supposed to come earlier. But if anybody really wants to know what the true evidence is, come to the trial. Los Angeles, 111 Hill Street, downtown Los Angeles, in the Civil Building, and come and watch. You'll find out exactly all the stuff that Mike Adams said was false, every bit.
Very good. Well, I'll be there.
Okay, good.
Okay, thanks, Aajonus.
You're very welcome. Okay, yep. I think we covered enough information on that.